Alrighty, welcome to part 3 of this tutorial on designing playing cards inside of Adobe Illustrator. If you've been following along, you just learned about symbols, and we filled in our empty spaces to represent our different aces and replaced our clubs with stars. So we have our beautiful star-based system. Next up, we're going to talk about color swatches. Color swatches are very similar in the way that they are implemented and how they can take effect to an entire document, like symbols. So just like symbols, there is an entire panel that is dedicated to swatches. Once again, if you do not have the swatches panel, which looks like 6 squares stacked together, you will find them under the Windows panel, and it's actually the option directly above symbols in this menu. There you can see the check mark for swatches. Just like with symbols, the swatches panel in Adobe Illustrator is pre-populated with every project that you will have inside of Illustrator. That dialog usually includes a set of CMYK colors, some grayscale colors, some gradients, and some fill patterns and things like that. Just like with the symbols, I emptied this panel out, and I've only included the colors that I intend to use. So there are 2 existing swatches that are being used throughout my document already: playing card black, playing card red. Before we go any further though, I want to show you how to make a symbol and talk about all the different options that exist here. So I'm going to make sure that I am on a layer here that I can draw in, and I'm going to draw a star again. I'll put it right in the middle of my 2 here just so we can see it nice and easy. And let me zoom in on that so we can see this star. And I'm going to switch its color. So the drop down here in the top left hand corner will only show my swatches unless I hold down the shift key, in which case I can get a more traditional color picker, and I switch this out to CMYK, and let's change this something to a nice sky blue. All right, now that I have an object, and more specifically that now that I have a new color in my foreground color, I can go over to the swatches panel and I can make a new swatch. This is just like creating a new symbol. In the lower right hand corner, I have a new swatch button. I click on that and I get a new swatch dialog. The name for a new color swatch is by default named based off of the values that were used to create that color. So I am going to give it a more colloquial name here and say sky blue. Next option up is color type. There are 2 different options for color type: process color and spot color. Most of the time, you're going to be using process color. Process color means the creation of colors through a process. In this case, the process of combining cyan, magenta, yellow, and black to create a full range of colors. Spot colors are specifically used for creating very specific shades of a color, usually used in branded kind of artwork. The example I usually use is Coca-Cola has a very specific color of red. So in a printing process, instead of relying on a combination of ink colors like cyan, magenta, yellow, and black to create that shade of red, instead they use a very specific Pantone color of red and print that specifically as its own pass to make sure that that brand authenticity remains intact. Most of the printing work you're going to do is going to be process color, and that is certainly the case in this instance. Next up is the magic checkbox. Making this color swatch into a global color swatch means that any object within your scene or within your document that has the color swatch applied to it will remain related to that color swatch. So anytime that you go and edit or change the color swatch, it will immediately be reflected on the symbols that it is applied to or the objects that it's applied to within your design. If it is not a global color swatch, you can apply it to something and then change that color swatch, and there is no relationship between those 2. And there certainly are instances where you might want that to be the case, but in this case, we are trying to build this dynamic design system, so we absolutely want this global checkbox checked. Then we have our color definition, and we also have an option to add to my library, which uses the online syncing Creative Cloud library. This is not something I'd like to do today, so I'm going to leave that blank. When I hit OK, I get my new color swatch in my color panel. There are different ways that you can look at this color panel. I believe the default view is to see just these squares. I like the list view where I can actually see my wonderful naming of my swatches available to me. To the right here, you'll notice that it actually has a couple of symbols here that let us know that this is a process CMYK color, but the swatch symbol itself also has some clues to that. The little white triangle that you see in the corner is actually an indicator that this is a global color. Also, if I double click on this to bring back up the color swatches option and switch this to a spot color, which once again, not really something I want, and hit OK, you'll see a teeny tiny little black dot in the middle of that triangle, which is letting me know that not only this is a global color, that's the triangle, but it's also a spot color, which is why I have that little spot. I don't really need this sky blue at all, but I did want to just use it to show you how to create a new swatch. So, since I don't need it, I'm going to delete it from my set here. And I also don't need this giant star in the middle of my card, so I'm going to delete it as well. Because my playing card black swatch and playing card red swatches are global colors themselves, I can very quickly and easily change my set, my entire playing card set very dramatically by simply editing these two color swatches. So if I double click to bring up my swatch options for my playing card black, I can do something like change this to playing card green. And all I need to do is change my color to a nice green color and hit OK. And every single instance where that playing card black color swatch was applied has switched to green. And it is taking hold of most of the document because when I created all those wonderful symbols we made, I baked this color swatch into those symbols. So even though those symbols were being used over and over and over again, each one of them was using this color swatch as the basis. And so now I have a wonderful green set. I can do the same thing with my playing card red. We'll make this into kind of an incredible Hulk inspired set by making this into a purple color. And let's maybe make that a little richer purple and hit OK. And now all of my red cards have become purple cards. And maybe not the most beautiful set, but hopefully you can see how the power of swatches can really take hold. I love symbols, which is why I did a whole section on symbols, but I think color swatches are even more useful across a whole variety of different projects. So I'm sure you've probably been using swatches in general if you've been using Adobe Illustrator, but may not have known about the power of using global swatches. So hopefully this is something that you can take and implement in all sorts of projects within your Illustrator workflow. That is it for this part of the tutorial. Next up, we're going to talk about character styles.